Hey, it's the first episode of the Planet LP podcast for the year 2026. Hello there. I'm your host, Ted Asregadoo. 2025, man, that was a pretty memorable year musically for yours truly. And while I'm kind of late to the game of best of lists, and let's be frank, best of lists are kind of irrelevant now because in this day and age of choose your own adventure, who really cares what the best ofs are by some music critic somewhere? I mean, we're all just siloing anyway, but it hasn't stopped me from reflecting on music related experiences from last year. And I reached out to my friend Jeff Giles. He is the co-host of the Record Player podcast and the author of Jefitoblog to talk about memorable music related moments for him and for me in 2025. Certainly we'll be talking about albums and songs, but also perhaps about books. I'll be mentioning a documentary that meant a lot to me, and even concerts, of course. And that's coming up right after this. Hey there, folks. I'm going to be honest with you for a moment. Sometimes, even for a music aficionado like myself, I want somebody else to drive, to take the wheel, to just play something that's interesting. I get tired of curating playlists. That's a confession. But I think I have found the station that does just that. That is, I can let them take the wheel. It's Steve Fox's Old School at stevefoxoldschool.com. Well, what are you going to get if you go to Steve Fox's Old School? You're going to get classic soul from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. You're going to get some tasteful R&B. You're going to get some of those classic hip-hop tracks and some surprising disco numbers that make you want to say, this sounds great. So let Steve Fox's Old School take the wheel, whether it's a party or you're at work or you're just working in the backyard and just want some me time and a good soundtrack to take you through the day. It's Steve Fox's Old School at stevefoxoldschool.com. They are a proud sponsor of the Planet LP podcast, and you can get them on TuneIn Radio or at their website, stevefoxoldschool.com. Steve Fox's Old School. Jeff, welcome back to the Planet LP podcast.
Ted, thank you. It's always good to be here.
Happy belated New Year, I guess. This is the first time we're talking since the New Year. Yeah. You know, for those who might not remember, Jeff's been on the podcast many times, and he is a novelist that's currently working on novel number 2 with the working title of Largo's Dream at last check from me.
That's right.
How's that novel progressing there, Jeff?
You got a great memory. 2025 was not a great year for finding time to work on a novel. I haven't touched it since probably the fall, but it's all right here. And
okay.
It's here in my head, and it keeps yelling at me to get out. So, I'm not a big New Year's resolutions kind of guy, but I definitely would like to spend more time working on that this year. I want to finish it this year. So thank you for the inadvertent nudge.
That's what I'm here for, right? Just to nudge you every now and then to get you out to put out some of that goodness that you write often on Jefitoblog. I loved your debut novel. I'm looking forward to reading Largo's Dream when it's finished and out there and in print for all to enjoy. Well, as I said, 2025 for me had a lot of memorable music related moments. I'm going to start with a book that actually did not come out in 2025, but I read it in 2025. It is called All Over the Place, The Rise of the Bangles from the LA Underground. And you can kind of see I'm holding up the book here, but the background of the book is the background of the video there. It's written by a guy named Eric M. Shade. It's not, an official biography of the band, but this guy, man, he had so much in terms of archival material, probably drawn from the public record of covering this band in music presses around the LA area. But he has some great pictures in here. And what I like the Bangles just fine. They had some great hits. Of course, you can't deny that they were huge in the 80s, and they were very integral to, if you want to call it the 80s soundtrack. But what I didn't know was what their life was like as they were struggling to sort of make their career. And this is a really fascinating read. It made me appreciate the band way more than I ever did. And I think one of the things, because of course, they're kind of a pioneering 80s rock group because they were all female and like the Go-Go's. But unlike the Go-Go's, I think that the Bangles played their instruments better than the Go-Go's did. They were certainly much better at what they did, but they weren't immune to the sort of slings and arrows of all the snakes and lizards that populate the music industry. And there's a piece in here on their making of their debut album, which was called All Over the Place, and the title of the book. And they had to work with a record producer named David Kahn, excuse me. Debbie Peterson recalls trying to do the vocals for the song Going Down to Liverpool. And she was just like, oh my God, he was just relentless. He made it do it over and over and over. And she felt like she was letting the band down until she realized, wait a minute, he's like this controlling guy with every member of the band. And so all four ladies, they kind of formed a bit of a support group. But the making of this record, they said, was almost torturous. They knew that the songs were good, but the way in which he was just so controlling and just like a perfectionist. But also there was one time, like a couple times, he would just put his hands on his face and go, this is so complicated. And they start like, that's not what you want to tell a group. The group will freak out. It's like you don't have any confidence in what you're doing. But the album comes out, and I remember buying it in 1984 on cassette and just loving it. I thought this was a great throwback album to kind of a 60s sound with a bit of an 80s twist. But yeah, that's my recommendation for most memorable book that I read in 2025 that was music related was All Over the Place.
I was interested in reading that when it came out, and then I kind of forgot about it. I wasn't sure if
very,
I
very well done. Yeah. Hozak
wanted
Books
to
is
get
the
the
one that
point.
publishes that. Yeah.
I like you.
yeah.
I thought they were just fine. I wasn't a huge fan, but they were my first concert, as I was recently reminded to share.
Really?
Yeah. I was at that show at the Warfield when Prince showed up.
Oh my God. So that was probably the Different Light tour, right?
Yeah, that was '86.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Was he just like,
Yeah.
you could kind of see him off to the side of the stage, or did he come on stage with them?
He did come on stage. I don't
Oh, he did.
remember being able to see him prior to his entrance, but yeah, he was out on stage with them. And yeah, they're, again, thank you for the nudge, the inadvertent nudge. I'm going to read that book. I've heard that they were, surprisingly, I guess, pretty candid about
Mhm.
the inner workings of the group. And, it's a really interesting story, not only in terms of how they had to sweat to get to the top, but then how hard it was to deal with being at that level of success once they got there.
Yeah, it was, you work so hard to get good at your abilities as an artist. And then when you finally make it, there's always that sense of like, I feel like I'm being controlled by forces that want me to go in a
Yeah.
direction that I just don't want to go,
Maybe you have felt this. I've written about it. That sort of feedback loop that you open when you put something out for public consumption. At that point, it's no longer yours. So
Right.
it isn't
Right.
just that you're dealing with people at the label level or a producer or whoever is trying to pull the strings behind you. You're also doing something that, by the very nature of offering it to the world, you're kind of giving up ownership of it, and then you don't have control of uh, how people respond to it, how they interpret it, your own narrative as an artist. It can knock you off your axis pretty easily, and I got the
Yeah.
impression that was dealt with pretty candidly in that book. So I appreciate the reminder to check it out. I want to read it.
All right. All right. You got a memorable book or something memorable that you can share on 2025 that you were like, that was pretty good. I really enjoyed that.
Book wise, I spent the
Yeah.
entire year reading. Maybe you're familiar with these books. I wasn't. As you mentioned, I'm working on the second novel. The main character is a private investigator, and the idea is for it to be sort of like a Chinatown story with jokes. So I was in the mood to read humorous, noirish, caper heist, but those books are harder to find than you might think.
Hmm.
And at some point, I was recommended somehow the books. It's a series of books about a guy named Dortmunder, written by a guy named Donald E. Westlake, who
Hmm.
was an incredibly prolific writer. he wrote a bunch of bestsellers throughout his career, but Dortmunder was, I think there are 19 books in all, and they're all about, they're about this gang that keeps pulling off these heists, but there's a very light touch. It's very comedic. Things often go awry. Dortmunder himself is sort of a sad sack. The books were adapted for the screen on a number of occasions. The first book, The Hot Rock, was a Robert Redford movie. George C. Scott played Dortmunder at one point. And then later on, there were other books that were adapted to less than stellar results. I think you might remember a movie. I think it was called "What's the Worst That Could Happen." That was the name of the book that it was adapted from, I believe, starring Martin Lawrence and Danny DeVito, and it did not do well at theaters or with the critics. So anyway, the books, they did well enough to attract some level of attention, but I think that they've been somewhat forgotten. And I just spent the entire year reading this 19 volume series of heist caper comedies. And so I did not read any music books last year.
Well, that's fine. I mean, I think that given the fact that you're working on a novel very much in that genre, but maybe much funnier than what you were reading. And it's always good to kind of immerse yourself in that if you're going to be working in that lane. So that's always good. I mean, I read a few other music related biographies. I read Sly Stone's, which I found the first part great. I mean, the first third of it was just like, wow, this is really interesting because, you and I are Bay Area guys. I know you don't live in the Bay Area anymore, but Sly's from the Bay Area, right? He grew up in Vallejo, which is across the bridge from where I live. And he talks about those years, and I can just visualize, all the places that he's going. Working as a DJ in Oakland and all of that. Later, this happens a lot with music biographies. I'm sure you see this.
I know where you're going. Yeah,
right. When they can recollect the past really well, like their beginnings, their childhood, when they got their first guitar, whatever, playing first gigs. It is just like photographic memory. And then the closer they get to the current moment in time, the more forgetful they are. They don't really pay that much attention to it. And I found that to be the case with the Sly Stone biography, but it was still pretty good.
Well, the issue with Sly is that he, dropped off the map. Did you watch the Questlove documentary?
I did.
How did you feel like it stacked up to the book? Because the thing that I liked is that documentary is not immune from the thing that I hate, which is, like you said, it covers the rise of the artist in great detail. And then when it gets to the point where the career kind of falls off, it's like, and then here they are today. And, like they skip over the records that I'm often most interested in. The moment when things started to kind of get out of the artist's control a little bit. So that documentary was not immune to that, but it also didn't. I thought it struck a fine balance between not pussyfooting around the great sort of sadness and darkness of his later years without dwelling on it. And so, how do you think the book dealt with that period in his life?
Well, it was a book that was very much told from his perspective. I could tell that whoever's co-writing was just recording him, and then transcribing a lot of what he said. So there's a lot of him being jokey and irreverent and transgressive and all of that stuff. I felt like I was just listening to him talk as I was reading the book.
That could be a nice feeling.
It was, yeah. I mean, it felt like he was very cognizant of, his drug use, the things that kind of debilitated him later in life, the way he treated some of his partners in life, the controlling nature of his being in the studio, but also he understood that he was really trying to put together a portrait of the Family Stone as a purposefully multicultural band, and one that was certainly inspiring to somebody like a Prince, because Prince really modeled some of his persona after Sly Stone. And you can tell with the Revolution that was like a callback to Sly and the Family Stone. So with some of those things, he did talk about Prince a little bit. He almost said, almost like it was like, yeah, there's this guy named Prince. I never heard of him type of thing, but it was, of course, he did. So, so since we're on keeping on documentaries, I'm going to bring up this Beatles documentary, the anthology that was on Disney Plus, a 9-part series. Each episode was roughly an hour, and it chronicled the life of the Beatles from their beginnings to their eventual end, and then some. Sort of the 1995 or 94, 95 when they got together and put together the Beatles anthology, but also finished 2 songs that John Lennon had in demo form. I really liked it. I like the Beatles, just like most people. Like, oh yeah, I'm not fanatical about this band.
And yet you spent 9 hours watching this documentary.
I did spend 9 hours watching it. But I found it really engrossing. I realized a couple of things. The way in which Paul McCartney really kind of took control of that band. He was the one that kind of, I would say, was the director. Like, we're going to be doing this. Like, we need to get to work now. We need to bang out some of these songs. And the other guys were a little bit more casual. I don't think Lennon was as casual as Harrison and certainly Ringo. But the other thing I noticed is the way in which Paul McCartney can always find the camera. Anytime there's a camera in the room, that dude plays right to it. I mean, whether it's just being this sort of, jokey, hey, doo-ba-doo guy, or singing very earnestly into the camera, singing Hey Jude or something. I don't know. He's like the first generation of people that are Instagram famous, that they're addicted to their cameras, because this guy will find a camera in every room and like, where is it? Where is it? And just totally play to it. I just thought, oh my God, look at McCartney. I saw more of a human and just as sort of this mythical figure, but I thought it was quite good. I don't know. Did you get a chance to see any of this?
I watched Get Back, which I forget now. That's 3 hours, right?
It felt like 3 days, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. You like this better than, all right. So I watched that and I felt like it was a worthwhile watch. I took some things away from it. I've never been the biggest Beatle fan in the world, but obviously you can't, I don't think you can love rock music without absorbing some of what they did into your bones.
It's undeniable that they had such a huge impact.
But I didn't watch this when it was originally aired in 95. I'm the type of Beatle fan who doesn't really care about what happened prior to, I don't know, like Rubber Soul, Revolver, that area.
See, I'm with you on that. I'm totally with you on that. I did not like the boy band era. Just the pop, want to hold your hand stuff. I was like, it's not that great.
Yeah, it's fine, but I don't. Yeah, right. So I didn't watch it when it first aired, and now that it's 9 hours long, I mean that's a major commitment. So I haven't gotten around to it yet.
Well, if I were you, I would fast forward past the first few episodes because they focus almost a little too much on that era of Beatlemania, which you could tell even they were getting sick of it. It's just like, how much can we ride this thing out? I mean, everybody's just the screaming and the yelling and that we can't get, a moment's peace here. So I don't begrudge them for just saying, we're done touring and we're just going to be a studio band and that's it. Because at least they could, 1, get some peace, and 2, they could branch out more as a band, because if they were locked in that touring cycle of record and tour, then they're not growing musically. They're just regurgitating the same kind of songs over and over with minor tweaks here and there. But I think that they really wanted to get serious about their music. So, and it was kind of, it's it's kind of sad to see that the end was coming. And you could see the tensions flaring and that everyone was trying to grow musically, but they were still trying to be the Beatles. And of course they had their wives involved and things like that. I'm not just specifically talking about Yoko. I mean,
Sure.
there's a lot of footage of their wives in the studio with them. So they were very adamant about that. When we record, it's just us with George Martin and a recording engineer, and that's it. Just this little band of guys. But then when things started to get big and unwieldy, it got weird. So, but they tried to keep it together and ironically made some of the best music of their careers towards the end, but I guess that's the way it is. So I wanted to spike this one in because I think you can see where I'm going with a memorable moment here with my shirt. But it is that Rush made an announcement in 2025, the surviving members of Rush.
I thought of you the moment that I saw that. I thought you were the first person I thought of.
That they were going to reform with obviously a new drummer since their previous drummer had died from cancer. And they're going to tour. And I felt a little, I don't know, split, I guess is the word about this. Because while I'm not a purist, because I know that Rush didn't start with Neil Peart, had a guy named John Rutsey on drums for at least the first album and when they were up and coming. So it's not like they haven't worked with another drummer. And when they did it was a Taylor Hawkins memorial that they had Danny Carey from Tool kind of back them up on a couple. I think he did YYZ, and I think they rotated some drummers. So it was almost at that point that they were auditioning, like, what would we sound like with another drummer, who could play these songs.
They ended up they selected a drummer that I'd never heard of, but I love that it's a young woman, right?
Yeah, her name is I think it's Annika Nielsen. Sorry, Annika Niles.
Okay.
I knew there was an N in there. I had to look it up really quick. But I looked at some of her drumming on YouTube, and she is certainly capable of handling anything that Rush can do.
I mean, you would have to assume that she's a beast if they agreed to do this with her. But I was really excited and I got no skin in this game at all, as you know. But
right.
When I saw that, I was, with a gig like this, you would expect them to pick a drummer that has already played with everybody you've ever heard of, and Kenny Aronoff or somebody like that, and so I was excited.
They didn't. And they didn't, which was good. Yeah. So I'm going to go see them this summer and then in the fall. So they're playing the LA Forum, and I got tickets for that. And that show, and I think I've kind of bitched about this a little bit, but that show cost me for nosebleed seats, and I'm literally almost to the top of the LA Forum. It was like $310 or something like that, or $320.
Were you surprised?
Yeah, I was a little disappointed in the band because they sign on to this, right? Ticketmaster comes to them and says, what do you want to set the price point at? And of course the band says, or the management says, well, we're going to set it at a lot. And they had these packages like, the Farewell to Kings experience or the Xanadu experience. And it's like $1,400 a ticket. And I'm like, what kind of experience is that? I hope, I'm having red wine with Betty Lee, or something.
How many times have you seen them live?
This about 10 or 11.
Okay.
Yeah, 10 or 11 times.
So this would just be a nice little button on your.
Yeah.
You don't need the VIP. Okay.
No.
All right.
No. So I'm going to go see them at the SAP Center in San Jose. So that's the fall one, but the I don't know, it's really interesting to podcast listeners, but my best friend, Matt, he doesn't live in California anymore. He lives out of state, but he really wanted to see the band. So when they announced the initial tour dates, there weren't any in the Bay Area. They were only in LA. And so I bought the tickets for LA, and he says, great, I'll just meet you in LA and we'll have, guys, a rushathon, as it were. And then they announced that they were there were more dates, and one of them was San Jose. So I'm all like, shoot. And he said, well, why don't you sell the LA tickets and then just buy the San Jose tickets, which were just about the same price and at the same, nosebleed wherever I was. And I was like, okay, fine. I did that. Ticketmaster has a marketplace where you can resell your tickets. And of course they take money. Like, I don't know, it takes $50 or something like that. So I put on the marketplace and there are no takers, but my friend Carrie said, just go down to LA and see them. I mean, they're your favorite band. So see them twice. Come on, have fun. I said, okay, well, maybe I'll do that.
There were no takers.
There were no takers. Yeah.
What?
I don't know. Yeah. I think it's because they announced more dates. So there were people flying in from all over the world for that LA Forum concert. There was 3 nights in LA. And so it sold out very quickly. And I think once they announced more dates that there was just, there was the supply tended to meet the demand. So I think people were saying, well, now I don't have to fly to LA because they're coming to wherever, near a venue near me.
So, that still surprises me a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe demand for this is softer than I would have thought.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the initial, like, oh yeah, all the Rush fanatics just ran out and bought, they probably sold this thing out in like hours really, because I was sitting in the Ticketmaster queue and I was number 2000 at the beginning. And then it screwed me over. It said, connecting you now, get ready to buy your Rush tickets. And I'm on my phone all excited. And then it kicked me back in line to 15,000. And I'm all like, what the F? I said, I'm so sick of this shit. So what ended up happening, and you probably know this from covering music and all this, but back when you and I were younger, they would sell tickets in the city that they were coming to, early. Now they sell tickets to every concert at once. So it clogs up the system. And that's part of why people get screwed out of tickets when they think that they're like next in line and it glitches and it knocks you back to 15,000,
This didn't happen when you went to the warehouse.
No, it did not.
The counter to buy tickets in person.
Yeah. Or you spent the night, right? You spent the night. Some people would spend the night camping out for their favorite band.
Yeah.
When I was 12.
Know if there's an act left on the planet that would compel me to do what you are doing for Rush. I'm just not sure. I'm not
really?
Sure.
Doobie Brothers?
No.
Michael McDonald?
I've seen McD. I've seen him a couple times. Most recently with our dear pal, Jason Hare.
Okay. Billy Joel?
No, I've seen him a few times, and he hasn't changed his set list. 1990.
All the same, right?
Okay. Yeah. No, I don't. Yeah, I've thought about this a lot. Like my preferred method, my preferred delivery mechanism for live music at this point is almost sort of ad hoc. Like I would much rather catch something small, something intimate, even if it's accidentally, than I think spend hundreds of dollars to go mingle with thousands of other people in, I don't know, stand in line for a merch table, fight my way out of the parking lot at the end of the night.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
You said you wanted to talk about favorite musical moments from 2025, and as you're aware, for most of the year, I was looking for work. So buying concert tickets was the last thing on my mind. But, I have an 18-year-old daughter who plays trombone. And so I was able to watch her perform, multiple times in various settings. That was very fulfilling to me. I had a friend who got married. I watched him play with a pickup band after the ceremony, at the party.
Guitarist? Is he a guitarist?
Yes, of course, guitarist. And that was lovely. And so those moments, even though I didn't have a Rush moment, those moments were, they reminded me of how music is this connective tissue for us, right?
Right.
That it means a lot. And I think especially at times like now, when I don't know what I'm allowed to say language
Yeah, I
wise
know.
here, but
When the world is running down, you make the best of what's still around, right?
yeah, like
Thank you.
that
Thank you,
playing
Sing.
thing, these things, I think they're most important. They feel
Yeah.
they can feel most impactful. Music has this capability, this ability to just kind of catch you on a breeze and send you someplace that you didn't you needed to go. So I don't know. Yeah, like I said, I can't imagine. I can't think of an act who would compel me to do what you're doing, but I hope you get all of those moments,
I
both
I I hope
times.
so too. I mean, I've seen this band as I said probably 10, 11 times, and they've never failed to disappoint. They've always brought their A game. They've always been a class act, as it were. They weren't milking just the hits. They spike in deep cuts that they haven't played in years. Um, they're playful on stage now more than they used to be when they first saw them in 81. They were very serious. And now it's like, hey, man, we're, well, last time I saw them, they were in their 50s, but 50s, almost 60. Uh, but now, it's probably at this point, they're just doing it for the fun of it. And I know they're going to bring their A game. They don't, they don't take shortcuts. They never have. They take all this very seriously, and they know the expectation is high. So that alone gets me in the door. But I think you made a really good point about musical experiences, that they don't have to be, at the scale of what's behind me, the Rush 50th or 50 something tour. You can find so much joy in musical moments like the wedding you went to, or your daughter's trombone recital, that has a lot of meaning. And I sought out bands and concerts that, for me at least, it did mean something to me, and all those who went too. And I'll spotlight three that I went to, because I already did one, which was the Cruel World Festival. I did a whole episode on that and talked about how it was for my 60th birthday. My wife bought tickets for me, so we went down to LA in Pasadena to see this music festival. It was one day. It was all day. We walked almost 11 miles, but I got to see bands that I truly admire. And the reason why we went down is because of Till Tuesday. They had reformed, and I'm a
Yes.
big Amy Mann fan. I love Till Tuesday's albums, mostly the second and third one. The first one was fine, but it was really memorable. But then I thought,
Is anything
wow,
coming out of that? Was that a one time thing, or are they?
no, for Till Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that this was sort of a one-off. I don't think that they're planning on doing any more
Okay.
touring, or, I mean, there was some sense that it depended on how this performance went and how they felt about it. My understanding is they all loved it. The band members, they just thought it was great, a great experience. And there was some indication that they were going to think about going out on the road for more dates, but it hasn't happened yet. So maybe in 2026. I don't know if they're
I
working on
don't know if
something.
there's enough demand for them to support their own tour. I feel like in order to do that, they'd have to hook up with some other 80s act in a way that probably would not make them happy. I don't know if Till
Right.
Tuesday wants to be on a package tour with Howard Jones and Flock of Seagulls or whatever.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think that what they were able to accomplish at the Cruel World Festival was certainly memorable for those in attendance. Even Julie
You
was
saw
just like,
Go-Go's too, right?
what's that?
Weren't the Go-Go's?
Go-Go's were there.
Go-Go's?
Yeah. Devo was there. Go-Go's were there. Um, She Wants Revenge, New Order. And then they had Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. So they were kind of the headliners at the end. But even Julie got a little misty eyed during one of the songs, Till Tuesday song, the Other End of the Telescope, because she was all like, I just started thinking about our life together. Because when we met in college, around the time that we met, this album came out.
Yeah.
And I used to play it a lot. And I guess it's that song, for some reason, has sort of been a mainstay throughout our marriage together. So she just started thinking about her life, and she was having a It's a Wonderful Life moment. I saw the tears coming down. I was like, okay, honey. All right. I put my arm around her, and my
That's what
friend John,
music can do.
but yeah, I put my arm around her. My friend John Machino was watching the concert with us, and he took a picture of us from behind, which I thought was very sweet, with me and with my arm around my wife. But I'm going to just I know we're kind of hitting a time wall here because you've got to run, but I wanted to just spotlight 3 memorable concerts on top of the Crow World Festival. And the first one is this guy, Steven Wilson, that I've been a fan of since the pandemic. I didn't really know much about Porcupine Tree or him or any of the billion bands that he's part of, but I started to kind of explore this. I mean, everybody was home for the freaking, that had to be home. So I was ordering a lot of stuff through Amazon, and I got a lot of his records, and I started to become a real fan of what he was doing. So when he announced that he was going to tour behind this album, I immediately bought tickets. They weren't that expensive. I think they were under $100. It was at the Masonic in San Francisco.
Glad to hear the Masonic's still around.
Masonic is still around, still a great venue. No bad sight lines. The sound's good. You're close enough to the artists. But
I heard the Bottom of the Hill was going away, so I'm glad
they are. Yeah, they're going to be closing later this year. Yeah, they're just not able to financially keep it going. Plus, I think the owners are ready to retire. I think that's part of it.
Hard time for communal spaces. So I'm glad
it is. Yeah. So I just wanted to spotlight this concert only for a couple of things. One, I wasn't really into this album that he was touring behind, even though he played it in its entirety. But the experience itself was really good because he played it and then he came out and he started talking to the audience, and he was so funny. He said, I know. He says, how many of you were dragged here tonight by your boyfriends or your husbands? And all these women started raising their hands. He says, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I know you're probably thinking at some point, God, we've just been sitting here for like 40 minutes and he's only playing 2 fucking songs. So, but he was really good. I mean, it was so great to see the band of accomplished musicians so up close. It was kind of like the Pineapple Thief with that, a band that I started getting into last year, 2024, actually. I was just like, wow, it's so great to see these people who are so great at what they do in terms of players. And I'm like right there. I can kind of see how the magic's done. So that was very memorable to me.
I didn't even know he toured. I thought he just lived in the studio and never saw the sun.
You would think, yeah, but no, I think he still might be out on tour still. He's doing like a world tour. This dude is like, strangely enough, huge in Mexico. Like one of his biggest fan bases is Mexico. And he played, I think, Mexico City to a huge crowd. I mean, I don't know if it's like 60,000, but there are a lot of people out there and they were all singing. I'm like, wow, this guy really made a name for him in an unlikely place. This kind of pasty British musician who does prog rock. You would not automatically think that, folks in Mexico would be like, yeah, sign me up. This guy's it.
You should know, for your listeners, he's also huge in the C-suites of every reissue label known to man.
Yes, he is the go-to guy.
If you've never listened to a Steven Wilson record, you have probably listened to a Steven Wilson record without knowing it because he remixes everything.
He seems to, yeah. He every classic rock and even new wave, they just come to him and say, "Can you do this?" And he's all, "Yeah, sure, if you're going to pay me." So, and to his credit, he kind of stays pretty true to the original mix. He just enhances a few things here and there to make it more interesting sonically, I think. And then I wanted to highlight this band, Wolf Alice. I'm going to move out of the way so you can kind of see their promotional shot, as it were. So another band that I got into during the pandemic, and I bought the album Blue Weekend in 2021, mostly out of a New Musical Express review of it. And they were just saying for them, it was like one of the best albums of the year. I said, never heard of this band. So plunked down my however much, $12.99. Album arrives.
The record reviews still matter.
Yes, it did matter because I bought the record.
Right. I love it.
It arrived in the mail. I played it and I thought, this is pretty good. And the more I played it, the more I really loved it. And then I realized, I don't think there's any bad songs on here. This is a pretty solid record. So they just released in 2025 their album, The Clearing, and I got tickets to go see them. I was watching TV with my wife, and I said, "Hey, Ticketmaster's saying that Wolf Alice is coming to the Fox Theater in Oakland. Do you want to go?" She said, "How much are the tickets?" And I said, "They're like $42." And she said, "Okay." She says, "As long as we can sit. I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want to go through what we did at Cruel World again."
Yes.
So I got the $40, 40 and plus change tickets, and we went, and they were fantastic. I mean, just they were really good. I mean, I was just so taken by their.
For people your age, did they take the stage on time? That's what you want.
They did, yes. They were on time. They were very, very British. Let's put it that way. You know, they were very on time. They really kept to their schedule, as it were. And they did say, the bassist, his name is Theo, I can't remember his last name, but he made a really good comment in between one of their songs. He says, the last time we were here at the Fox Theater we were opening for churches a long time ago. And we just loved this venue. And I kept saying, "Ooh, one day we're going to headline this place." He says, "Well, that one day is right now." And everyone's like, "Yeah." And then they launched into some blistering song. And it was good. I mean, I was just like, it made me want to go and listen to their back catalog, which I did. I didn't know they had a couple more albums, but the album that I really loved was their debut. It doesn't have the best title. It's called My Love Is Cool, I think that's what it is. And I was like, okay. But excellent songs on there. So yeah, Wolf Alice, definitely memorable. And then I'll close with this one. And this is the band that, Belly, you can guys.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's another one I thought of you when I saw that they were doing it again.
I think Belly they were really great back in the 90s. I just enjoyed their music so much. Never saw them in the 90s because I was in grad school, becoming a young father. I just didn't have the time. But when they released their third album, they played the Great American Music Hall in San Francisco, and I meant to go, but then the night of the concert, when it was scheduled, my work schedule was such that it changed every week, so I couldn't really I'm not sure if I'm working evenings or mornings. I don't know what's going on here. So I just said, pass. I won't go. But this time, tickets were $30. I'm all like, I'm not saying no to that. So we went, and they played the album King in its entirety. And I did a whole episode on this. This is the last episode I did was on Belly. So you can watch that one and get my take on it. But it very memorable because it was just, I don't know. It's like seeing your friend playing guitar or your daughter playing trombone. These songs meant a lot to me, and to hear them played live, and to see them, and that they seemed so happy. It was infectious. So music has that power, right? To make you feel less alone in the world and more connected to something that's important, which is art. And I think in troubling times, is that we definitely need a shot of that.
We do. And I think it feels really good when you can see a group like Belly or 10 plus years ago, I wrote this about Toto, which is not going to make you happy, but
Jeff, I love that you love Toto. How's that?
I mean, look, I'm not an impassioned defender of Toto, but what I wrote then was these guys have been through the ringer, they had the ring, and then it all fell apart, and blah blah blah. And now they're touring because they want to, and I think that, regardless of the cash-in factor for the Rush tour, I think you'll probably feel some of that vibe when they take the stage too, that it is looser, that it does feel more like people having fun. And so I'm glad you got that with Belly. What does it mean to feed the tree? Can you tell me that after all these years?
So I thought it was about death. That's what I gathered. I thought that the feed the tree was because you have to take your hat off when you're talking to me, be there when I feed the tree, like maybe a burial near a tree. But I don't know. I mean, I know there's some references to when Tanya Donnelly was a girl, where she talks about falling down the stairs and knocking out her teeth, and they put silver where her tooth had been. That really happened to her. So she was called Baby Silvertooth. And
it's a great name for a band.
I know it is. That's a pretty good one. Ladies and gentlemen, Baby Silvertooth. That could be your band, Jeff Giles and Baby Silvertooth.
Yeah. My kids at one point came up with the band name Fat Nephew. I think I'm going to stick with that if I ever.
Very evocative. Very evocative.
If I ever get back to playing guitar again, that's one of my other things I want to do. I want to.
Yes.
I want to play more guitar this year.
I think I might join you in that.
Good.
In that. Because
Good.
I realize I'm not a good guitar player. That it's just an instrument that eludes me. I'm a much better drummer than I am guitar player. Because when I was passionate and practicing a lot on the drums, especially when I was going to my practice space like every week, like 3 times a week, 3-4 times a week, I was jamming with this guy that I shared the space with. And sidebar, he was like one of my early bosses when I first started in radio, and he ended up being a neighbor next to me. We lived like 3 doors down. And he's no longer lives next door to me, but we got a practice space together, and he played guitar. He was really good. He was in a band that was almost signed back in this late 60s, early 70s. But he would jam with me because he's been playing decades. And then we didn't see each other for like probably about a month. And then I was in the practice space. He came in, he said, "Hey, how's it going?" And we just started playing, and he stopped and he said, "You've been practicing. I can tell." I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "You are so loose, and the time feels like I can just kind of like play around it." He said, "But when we first started playing together, you were very stiff." I don't mean that as a total, critique, but most beginners are very stiff. He said, "But man, this is great. You're great." He was all excited. And then sadly, the place burnt down. Our practice. But only things that survived were my drums and his Marshall stacks and stuff, because there were a number of practice space rooms. And long story short, there was a band that got all new equipment, and they ran way too much electricity through that. It wasn't, they fried it, and it caused a huge fire. And thankfully nobody died, but that was the end of that. So that was the last time I played. And that was in 2008. I never played drums after that again. So
it's time to get back to it, Ted. You need a new practice space.
I wish I could get one. Yeah. There's nothing here though. But I think I'm going to probably go with guitar again, because it's portable, and it's not that loud. It's an electric guitar. So I don't plug it in. I just play and just try to learn chords and things. But
well, good. Let's both commit.
Okay.
I hit a wall. Okay. I don't think I'm ever going to be a good guitarist. I would love to get to a place where I could do what you did, and play without thinking, and not be rigid, all bound up and stiff like that. I need to get back to it. I need to. It's been a few years since I played, and I got to do it. So let's commit.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. Well, let's do that. Anyway, Jeff, I know you got to run. I've kept you long enough. Thank you so much for being on it's the first episode of 2026 of the Planet LP podcast. Always love talking to you. I always feel like it's like you and I are like, like an old pair of gloves or something. It's very comfortable, to talk to you. So
I always say, anytime you invite me, I'll be here. So thank you for the invitation.
Should we mention that as we were recording this, it's our friendiversary in a way.
That's right. Yes. We've known each other for almost a quarter of a century.
Yeah. It's 24 years you and I have been acquainted and friendly with one another. And of course, friends. So acquainted, friendly, friends. So there you go. There's the progression. Thanks so much. I really appreciated you coming on the podcast on such short notice.
My pleasure.
And thank you, dear listener and dear viewer. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'll be back very soon with another episode of the Planet LP podcast right here. Take care, everybody.